I'm losing my mind over this. Here's what's happening. My partner, I got a new printer. It was an HP. It seemed fine. And I went to print like a packing label or something, and it just wouldn't print at all. And I couldn't, there's no message on my computer that was explaining it.
And the ink is completely full. I replaced it like last week.
And the reason it's not printing says payment method needs updating.
Cannot print with the installed cartridge. As you can see, this page is printed fine.
That's infuriating.
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
be so mad if I'm trying to print something out and my printer is like keeps printing out a page that says I can't print. I won't print.
I won't print, exactly.
Maggie's brand new printer had been working normally for 6 months before it suddenly refused to print. She did some digging and realized HP had enrolled her in their ink subscription service called Instant Ink.
Get ready to ink differently with HP Instant Ink. Your printer anticipates when you're low and sends you the right ink right on time for less.
But Maggie's printer still had ink in it when it stopped working. It turns out that when your Instant Ink subscription expires, or if you cancel it, HP remotely kills your cartridges.
That's when I started Googling it and figuring out like that's a problem other people were having.
The ink that you paid $122 some for, that's in your printer right now, you can't use that.
I have 2 full cartridges that I don't have access to because I canceled HP's Instant Ink monthly service that they want to fuck everybody with.
Subscriptions are so annoying and they're everywhere these days. There are monthly fees to watch movies, listen to music, shop, play video games, water your plants, use your sewing machine, brush your teeth, turn on your lights, open your garage door, start up your car, use your fridge, your toaster, your water bottle. There's so many subscriptions you probably didn't notice that we made up 3 of these. And I bet you can't guess which ones. It's these 3.
Buying an expensive physical thing and then also having to keep paying for something every month. So it's just kind of like frustrating.
After talking to Maggie, I started looking into all the ways that companies make us pay endlessly to keep using the stuff we already own. Over the past 10 years, businesses using the subscription model have been growing almost 4 times faster than traditional companies. Like most people, I thought subscriptions were just an annoying and frustrating cash grab by greedy corporations. And they are, but we're losing more than money. Subscriptions are actually changing our relationship to the stuff we use and rely on every day in a kind of dangerous way. Do you know how much you spend on subscriptions? For the average American, it's nearly $300 a month. Let me guess, you're thinking, there's no way you spend that much. Well, the average American also underestimates their monthly subscription bill by at least $100, so maybe check again. Point is, people are sick and tired of subscriptions. I'm assuming. I couldn't actually read the article. But this business model isn't new. It's been around since at least the 15th century with the invention of the printing press. Newspaper readers subscribed by writing their name underneath an agreement. Sub, under, scribe, write. The publisher earned customer loyalty and therefore a predictable, steady revenue by offering customers a convenience, extra value, or both. In this case, the latest issue delivered straight to their door. It was a win-win. Media subscriptions were born in 1948. Cable TV brought higher quality signals for a cheap monthly price. In 1997, Netflix extended that concept to DVDs, free delivery and no late fees. And when they launched their streaming service in 2007, eventually leading to, well, all this, that provided an even bigger value. Unlimited music, movies, and TV on demand that you don't have to lug around with you when you move.
Yeah.
This balance held through the 2000s and early 2010s. Subscriptions brought us free and fast delivery, an affordable way to wear designer clothing, and cheap razor blades. But today, there's this new category of subscriptions where we're paying to keep using something that we already own. How did we get here? Well, it all started with Salesforce.
Each one of our pods is a multi-tenant cluster. This has really increased our ability to deliver a very high, reliable solution for our customers.
Don't worry, I'm not going to explain what Salesforce is, even though I totally could if I wanted to. All you need to know is that they make software. The important thing isn't what their product is, it's how they sold it. See, through the 90s and most of the early 2000s, if you wanted to buy software like Word or Photoshop, you'd buy a physical CD-ROM. You'd install it on your computer and use that as long as you liked. But the problem for companies was that software is expensive to maintain. Software engineers are constantly fixing bugs and making security upgrades. Those days, tech was advancing so rapidly that every year or so they would also release new versions with tons of new features. Salesforce positioned themselves as the anti-software. No big upfront costs for software that will be obsolete in a few years. Just a small monthly fee and you'd always have the latest version. Software was no longer a product that you buy in a box, it was a service that you paid a monthly fee to use. It was a huge success. Salesforce went public in 2004 and was the top performing IPO of the year. Microsoft launched Office 365 in 2010 and saw revenue grow by nearly 70%. Adobe went subscription only with Creative Cloud in 2013. Subscriptions have grown 16 times since then, driving most of the $200 billion company's growth. Most people still consider Apple a products company, but lately, their fastest growing revenue stream is their $24 billion subscriptions unit, which grew 14% last year. Investors love software as a service, but where's the customer value? Today, Photoshop costs $263 a year, which is a cheaper upfront cost than the $700 you'd pay before. But in about 2.5 years, you'll exceed it. So what additional value are you getting for that increased cost? Not much. The software isn't really improving that drastically anymore, maybe a new feature or two. Word also hasn't evolved that much since 2006, except for a few stylistic changes.
Over time, companies have seen this as a new way to squeeze a little bit of extra money out of consumers.
Then subscriptions crawled out of our screens into our physical stuff and became almost unavoidable.
It became really cheap to introduce network connectivity and embedded software into devices. So we see all sorts of things that don't really need software, that don't really need a Wi-Fi connection, that now have them.
When manufacturers advertise smart products, the software is a selling point. They promise all sorts of flashy features. But smart appliances have shorter lifespans than regular dumb ones, and it turns out people don't really even use all those fancy features. Plus, software gets buggy and it needs a lot of maintenance.
My car would not let me inside.
There is a software bug, I think, with the latest update.
I can't even get out the vehicle. Y'all could hear this motherfucking car.
A lot of times, software actually makes our stuff less safe, less durable, and weirdly hostile.
I'm in fine working order, giving these people exactly what they need.
Software is really the key tool that gives companies like the functional ability to control how we interact with an object.
These cartridges have a specific chip on them that is like communicating to HP. So if at any point it loses network connection, it won't print, or if it recognizes that your payment method with your HP account has lapsed, then it won't print.
This tactic is called software tethering, and it shows up all over the place. Car manufacturers have started trying to lock certain features behind a paywall.
BMW will let you freeze your butt off unless you pay them a subscription.
$18 a month for heated seats. That's actually one of the craziest things I ever heard.
Tesla owners have to pay $10 a month to gain access to all of their cars' navigation and streaming features.
To have to pay extra for something that the car is in the car is ridiculous.
And Mercedes locked faster acceleration behind a $1,200 yearly subscription, along with a bunch of other stuff.
Unlocking the dash cam will cost you an extra $16 a month. Remote starting this will cost you an extra $35 a year. If your Mercedes gets stolen, they will help you find it, but for $2 a month.
You bought that heated seat, you bought those components, they put that into the price of the vehicle, and now they're charging you for the right to use it.
A brand new electric vehicle, you can't even access the damn thing. This is 2022, people. This is what the future looks like.
Imagine if we charge you for gasoline, then charge you for the right to burn it in your engine.
This is greed. I don't care. Oh no, it's capital. This is greed.
It's the kind of stuff that just makes you want to take a giant dump on someone's head.
It's not just cars. The snooze smart bassinet, the Oura ring, Hatch alarm clock, ring camera, these are all expensive products that don't work fully or at all without a subscription.
Those kinds of subscription offerings aren't adding new value, they're just imposing a tax on using the things that we feel like we've already paid for.
This clear lack of customer value is also why so many streamers and subscription services have to use deceptive marketing practices to trick us into subscribing, like free trials that automatically become paid memberships and dark patterns that make it hard to cancel. Software tethering also allows companies to force us to use their expensive refills. GE put digital locks on some of their smart fridges, so you can only use their name brand water filters. Companies will encrypt anything: coffee pods, light bulbs, cat litter, and of course, printer ink. All so that we're forced to keep spending money with them. HP Instant Ink takes this strategy to the next level. They charge you based on how many pages you want to print, not how much ink you'll use. Maggie thought an ink subscription meant new ink cartridges on demand like Dollar Shave Club, but Instant Ink is more like a streaming service. Maggie doesn't own her cartridges any more than you own the movies on Netflix. Your access to them depends on a monthly payment. In other words, HP isn't selling you ink cartridges at all. It's renting them to you and charging you each time you use them, all enforced by software tethering.
It's not even like you're getting like unlimited use of your product that you have in your home. You're having to only use it a small amount. It's like I could just go down the street and print somewhere else or at the library where you have to pay a few cents.
Yeah.
Instead of like having one in my house that I have to pay for.
Maggie was kind of like, when I buy something and it comes with so many rules and restrictions, do I even own it? That's a tricky question. We're gonna come back to that. Subscription companies don't care how shitty our experience is as long as they make a profit. They'll even kill their own products if that's what it takes.
A few years ago, Nest was making a home automation hub called the Revolve. And one day they decided that they just didn't want to support this device anymore. And so they sent out an email to everybody that bought one of these things for $300, whatever it was, and said, hey, on May 24th, this thing just doesn't work anymore. We're turning them off.
Spotify did the same thing with their $90 device Car Thing less than 2 years after it went on the market, as did Juicero with its $400 juicer. And earlier this year, the electric car company Fisker filed for bankruptcy, which has left thousands of people who bought that car wondering if they'll still be able to drive it when the servers go down, or if they now own the world's most expensive paperweight.
In a world where your device isn't dependent on the servers that the manufacturer is maintaining, that's fine, right? If my toaster that I bought in 1995, if the company goes out of business, the toaster still works. Today, that is just not true anymore.
If you're a good coder, you might be able to figure out how to keep your bricked Juicero or Fisker running anyway. But you'd have to bypass the company's software restrictions, which is illegal under Section 1201 of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA. The DMCA was passed in 1998 to prevent piracy. No, the other piracy. And applies to anything with a computer in it. In 1998, that meant like a DVD. But in 2024, that's almost everything we own. And companies use copyright as the legal covering to lock us out of our own stuff. There are exceptions for law enforcement and research, but not for someone who bought a $60,000 car, or for Maggie.
If I don't want to continue with Instant Ink, the ink cartridges are pretty much wasted. It's not like you can unsubscribe and keep using the ink.
Maggie's only option now is to buy new cartridges, official HP ones, of course.
I think the printer cost like $85, and then the new ink from HP is like $35 or $40, so it's about half the price of the printer just for one ink refill.
And that's exactly what HP intended. The CEO freely admits this.
Our goal was to reduce the number of what we call unprofitable customers, because every time a customer buys a printer, it's an investment for us. And if this customer doesn't print enough or doesn't use our supplies, it's a bad investment.
They're bad customers anyway if they're not using HP cartridges, because
exactly.
you haven't made any money on them yet.
Exactly.
So to recap, Salesforce made all software into a subscription and then everything became software. Now companies don't have to earn our loyalty to get that predictable revenue. They can just force it with their software locks, and they're legally protected by our outdated copyright laws.
That, I think, has led to a really profound change, not just in the law, not just in our economy, but like in the way that society operates. It's really crucial that people have some degree of control over the devices that they rely on every day, right? Their phones, their cars.
Today, the balance of power is so out of whack that consumers and lawmakers are fighting back.
Now to a consumer alert about those pesky subscriptions. Today, the Federal Trade Commission issued what it calls the click-to-cancel rule.
Click to cancel basically means that if you click to subscribe, you should be able to click to cancel. And if companies don't comply with it, then we can go forward with civil penalties, which means that they'll be liable for thousands of dollars.
The law cracks down on free trials that charge you if you don't cancel on time and subscriptions that automatically renew.
We're really trying to address that by requiring companies to disclose upfront the full set of requirements that will follow once you do sign up, and also make sure that users are not spending precious hours of their life navigating these archaic bureaucracies just to be able to stop being charged a monthly fee.
The FTC is also going after Adobe and Amazon for their shady subscription practices, and consumer protection groups want them to go after software tethering next. No more locking all the best features behind paywalls or surprise bricking. This consumer advocacy is working. HP is phasing out Instant Ink, citing customer pushback, and public pressure also killed BMW heated seats and Keurig's coffee pods. But there's a more fundamental change that we need to start taking seriously. When you pay money for a product, that's yours now.
It's not a lease, it's not a monthly subscription. I pay you one time, I own that thing, right? And I get to behave as if I own that thing.
There's so much more to explore on this topic that we're actually gonna put it into a second part to this video. We're gonna look at why our stuff breaks more often and why it's so freaking expensive to fix your iPhone, your car, and all sorts of other products.
The part itself was about $150, $160, but my bill was almost $5,000.
And we're gonna dig into the bigger question Maggie raised with her printer. Do we even own the things we buy? Stay tuned for the answer in a couple weeks. Thanks for watching The Classroom. We're always looking to tell more stories like this one, unpacking economic systems that impact all of our daily lives. What other issues do you want to see us cover? Sound off in the comments, and again, don't forget to like and subscribe.